Section 5.1, Addition and Subtraction of Polynomials. What is a polynomial? Polynomial is an algebraic expression in which the powers or the exponent of the variables are whole numbers. You know what whole numbers are, and they are, let's say 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. In other words, it's the counting numbers, including 0. And there is no variable in the denominator of any fraction. So let's see if the following expressions are polynomials or not. Well, the first one is a polynomial because there is no x or any variable at the bottom of any fraction. I don't even have a fraction. And the powers of the variables happens to be whole number. Notice this guy doesn't have a power. By default, it's 1. So this guy is a polynomial. As a matter of fact, this is, we will see later, it's called trinomial because it got what? 3 terms in it. This guy is not polynomial. Why? Because the power cannot be fraction. This guy is not polynomial because you cannot have a variable at the bottom. In chapter 7, we will learn that what? You can write the square or any radical in terms of exponent. In other words, you can write it this way. But then again, the power of the variable cannot be what? Fraction. So this is not a polynomial. Is this a polynomial? Yes, it is. Because the powers of x's and y's happens to be whole number. As a matter of fact, this is called monomial, which means single term. So this guy is good. What about this guy? No, it's not a polynomial. We will learn all about these kind of functions called rational expressions. I should say expressions. This is not a polynomial because there is a x at the bottom of the fraction. Speaking of the terms, those are the expressions separated by plus or minus sign from each other. And so that's the definition of a term. So in this case, I have 3 terms. You all see it, 1, 2, 3. In this case, I have single term. Okay, single term. That's monomial. So this is a trinomial. This is a monomial. Degree of a polynomial is the highest exponent in any polynomial. So the degree of the constant numbers happens to be 0. So the degree of this polynomial is 2. As a matter of fact, we're going to call this what? Quadratic expression. The degree of this polynomial, which is a single term, which is called monomial. So when you have a product of what? 2 variables, you add the powers. So this, believe it or not, is 4th degree. So when you have single variable, pick the highest power in what? In the expression. When you have multivariables, that means more than 1 variable and they appear in product form, I need to add the powers to determine the degree of that specific term. Do you see it? So, this is what? 3 terms, correct? So this would be a 3-term polynomial. And the degree is 2. So we have degree 2. This guy is 1, 2, 3, 4-term polynomial. Okay. And the degree, believe it or not, is 4. So the degree is 4, the highest power of x in the expression. This guy is trinomial, which means 3 terms. But the degree of this term is 3 because 1 plus 2. Degree of this guy by default is 1. Degree of this guy is 1. So this is once again a 3-term, which we're going to call a trinomial. And the degree, believe it or not, is 3. This guy is a monomial, single term, but you have a product of x and y, so you add the powers. So this is like a single term, right? And the degree, believe it or not, is 7 plus 2, which is 9. So what would be the leading coefficient? Leading coefficient is the number or coefficient which is attached to the highest power of x. In this case, the leading coefficient is 6. Do you all see it? Leading coefficient is 6. In this case, the leading coefficient is what? 23, because that's the number attached to the x with the highest power. In this case, the leading coefficient is what? 1. Do you all see it? That's the number attached to the term with the highest power. There is no leading coefficient in a single term because it doesn't lead, because there is nobody following this. This is the only term in the expression. So that leads us to classification of polynomials. So we have monomials. Mono means one, so those are like single terms. Binomial, bi means two in algebra, so that means you got two terms. Trinomials, that means three terms, so you got three terms. Do you all see it? These are examples of monomial, binomial, trinomial. Anything above trinomial, we just go by the number of terms, like four-term polynomial, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or if you have 5, so that would be like five-term polynomial, and so on and so forth. But the first three type of polynomials, single term, what, two terms or three terms, we have a special title, such as monomial, binomial, trinomial. Anything thereafter, you just go by the number of terms, correct? So now, how do you add or subtract polynomials? Well, that's kind of like what? Combining the like terms, correct? Combining the like terms. So if you know how to combine like terms, then you know how to add and subtract polynomials. For instance, 5x squared minus 7 plus 9x squared plus 8x plus 12. These guys are like terms because they have same variables and what? Same powers. So all I have to do is what? Combine the coefficients. 5 plus 9 is 14, so I get 14 of these. This guy is one of a kind, so I'm just going to copy that over. But the numbers, which are called constants, so those are called constants, I get to add 12 plus negative 5 is plus 5. So that's the sum of those two polynomials. This is a binomial, that's a what? Trinomial. Now I have two trinomials, so I'm going to go 9x plus 7y minus z minus 2x minus 6y minus 3z. So these are like terms, so I get 7 of those. These guys are like terms, I get 1 of these. And these guys are like terms, I get negative 4 of those. Do you all see it? Right? When it comes to subtraction, first I have to distribute the minus, then I can add. So what you do, you go 2x minus 3. What does that minus do in front of the parentheses? It changes everybody's sign inside the parentheses. Okay, so this guy becomes negative, that guy becomes positive, that guy becomes negative. Now look for like terms. This is the only term I have. That's the only distinct term I have. But I do have like terms, namely 2x and 4x. They add up to 6x. Then I got negative 13 and negative 26, which they add up to 39. Final answer. Okay. And the saga continues, such as this guy. So that will be subtraction as well. So let's try this guy. Remember, first you distribute the minus, and then you add. So, but we have this. So remember what a minus sign does in front of the parentheses. It just changes everybody's sign inside the parentheses. Look for like terms. These guys are like terms, so that's negative x squared. These guys are like terms, that's negative 13y squared. So does these guys. And that gives you what? 7xy. And that's basically how you subtract. Super easy section, guys. So now you may have grouping symbols like brackets and stuff. So that's okay. So what you do is what? You start from the innermost parentheses first. This is where you start simplifying. So what do? There is a minus, so distribute. So that will give you 3x minus 4x squared plus 9. Combine the like terms if you have any. I don't. So if you don't have any like terms, then the brackets change into parentheses. So now there is a minus in front of the parentheses, so distribute. So you get 6x squared minus 5 minus 3x plus 4x squared minus 9. Look for like terms and combine. So I get 10 of these guys. Then this guy is one of a kind. But the constants, they add up to negative 14. So final answer. Please do not attempt to solve any of these for x or y. They are not equations. They're just adding, subtracting polynomials. Sometimes they might say subtract this from this, but that doesn't mean that guy goes first. This guy goes first. How is that? Suppose I say subtract 6 from 10. You don't write 6 minus 10, do you? You write it as 10 minus 6, which is 4. So same idea goes here, which is 4y squared plus 9y minus 1 minus 2y squared plus 10. Notice this guy goes second. So now I'm just going to distribute the minus. So that's 4y squared plus 9y minus 1 minus 2y squared minus 10. Combine the like terms, you get 2y squared plus 9y, but then you add the constants, negative 11. So be careful. Sometimes instead of giving you the problem in this format, sometimes they may, give you the subtraction in words, like subtract this from this. So that's basically how you do it. Unfortunately or fortunately, depends how you like fractions. Sometimes you have fractions. So in this case, I have 5 over 12x squared. I get to add to 7 over 12x squared. Then I have 1 over 16x, which I get to add the negative 1 over x to it. Then I got negative 7 over 8, which I get to add 3 over 4. Sorry guys, but we need to know how to add and subtract fractions. Here, they do have what? Same denominators, so we are good. Unfortunately here, okay, when it comes to x's, they don't have the same denominator. I need LCD, and the same thing goes for these fractions. So the first one is easy. Why? Because that's common denominator is 12. 5 plus 7 is 12, so we're good to go. But this guy requires LCD, which is 16, and that would be 1. 4 goes into 16 4 times 1 is 4. LCD between 8 and 4 is 8, so the first guy stays as is. But then 4 goes into 8 twice, 2 times 3 is 6. So the final answer is x squared minus 3 over 16x minus 1 over 8. So sorry, sometimes we need what? To combine polynomials, but the coefficients might be fraction. Finally, suppose you have a rectangle. The rectangle has a length, that's the longest length, and then the shortest side is called width, and the longest one is called length. Okay, suppose this is your backyard, you're trying to put a fence around it. And in geometry classes, we call that a perimeter, correct? So the question is, what is the perimeter of this rectangle? Remember, the perimeter is what? 2L plus 2W. Why? Because you got 2 length and 2 width. So if you go around the shape, add up the length, so you got 4 sides. Two of them happens to be the length of the rectangle. The other two happens to be the width. So in this case, the parameter will be 2 times x squared minus x plus 7 plus 2 times 3x plus 8. So twice of the length plus twice of the width gives you the perimeter of a rectangle, correct? So that's the formula to find the perimeter of a rectangle. So what do? First, you distribute the 2. You get 2x squared minus 2x plus 14. Then you distribute the 2 by 3x plus 8. That will be 6x plus what? 16. Now look for like terms. So what would you end up with? 2x squared plus 4x plus what? 30, is it? There you go. And that's pretty much how you add and subtract polynomials. Thank you.